As a community, we come together because our goal is the same, which is to improve the lives of others. I think what makes our education stand out is that, we don't really represent ourselves or our own taste level when we put education out for the people. We want them to develop as their own style, own flavor. We're interested in helping you be the hairdresser that you are and improve in the way that you'd like to improve. We're just going to provide content and material to help you get there. All right, guys, welcome back once again. This is Jesse Linares back with you to talk about fringes. And if we can, just general topics in haircutting that we could illustrate points on a mannequin. If there was any points that you saw over the weekend from Sammy or Andrew or myself that you'd like to talk about a little bit deeper, we could definitely get involved with that on a mannequin, or we could definitely get behind some fringes and some face framing, go about a little bit of a different approach about those ways to set that up. So if there's some questions you have regarding fringes or face framing, or like I said, haircutting in general, let's see if we can get it up. It's the all request hour, people, or as I like to say, the all request 40 minutes. So get in there, get those questions up, and let's see what we can do. In the meantime, I thought we would look at just getting after something that'll allow us to look at the structure of face framing and fringes, and then some sectioning that'll help us get to those places every single time. Got Lydia here once more. Hey, Cody. What's up, buddy? Nice to see you. Okay. So where does the fringe actually live? And I think anatomically it's important to discuss that because we get a lot of mistakes in fringes when we're taking hair from where it doesn't belong. So if you'll just look up on the flip chart behind me, I'll draw a couple quick lines for you. This line represents the center line that runs down the middle of the head that divides the hair from right to left. Now at the corner of the eye here, we can actually travel that up to the center parting or to whatever natural parting the guest has drawn, and that's going to give us the first half of the fringe anatomically. And when I say anatomically, I'm not talking about creative decisions or things that we want to do. This is simply how she's constructed, where her hair lives, how her skull is shaped, honestly, and then what it's going to let us do and the options that it gives or takes away in fringes. So if you're looking at the corner of the eye here, and we went ahead, just like we have been all weekend, and drew a natural parting on her. And we're going to look at setting up just a nice long face framing layer and a sweeping fringe. So from that point, I get right at the corner of the eye, and I'm just going to take that comb. Let me give you the forward view so you can see this, just what I want you to see. Bring her up here. So right here at the corner of the eye, and you can see how that line travels upward, whoops, and hits the parting just like so. So that's going to do this for us. Right there, right up to the parting. And if I draw that line right there, it's going to show us also around where the corner of the eye is. So there's that change in direction once again. Here's the front of the head. Somewhere it has to start to change into the side. So the corner of the eye is a pretty good place to guess where that spot begins. So this is one half of our fringe, or what we used to call the bangs. I want to just isolate that for now and put it away. Step over to the other side. Let me bring this down just a little bit. I'm sorry. I just realized I was giving you the ceiling view. There
Jesse.
What's up, buddy? Did I miss something?
Tell him about the contest.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's right there on the banner. I'm sorry. I get so used to seeing the banners, I forget that I'm supposed to say something when they pop up. So you are going to win. Someone is, at the end of this segment, one of my very favorite tools. This is my pivot point tripod. I've got some stickers on it. Don't worry about that. There's the one that's important for today. And these are very heavy-duty tripods. I've flown with this thing all over the country for many years, and it's taken a lot of abuse, but it's still going strong. And as an educator, I'll say, too, when I'm teaching a class and someone shows up and has one of these tripods, it makes me go, nice, this person's serious. So at the end of our segment today, someone's going to win one of those, plus a Cosmetologist of Chicago VIP membership, among other benefits that will guarantee your entrance to all 3 days of ABS Chicago 2021. So be looking forward to that as well. So here I am on the other side of the parting, and I'm at the corner of the eye. Boom, look at that. Such a deep parting. We really don't have that much to add to this side of the fringe. Like I said, if you're just joining us, we're starting off with just a really nice and easy construction of a long flowing fringe. And what we've done is gone from the corner of the eyes vertically up to the parting. And so when I say vertically, that's when you're viewing this like so. There you are at the corner of the eye. If you were directly in front of it, where we stand, that cone would look like it just moves vertically up. Same thing on the other side. And if you haven't guessed yet, I've said it a few times, I'm a little bit of a nervous cutter. I get nervous about the end result. I want it to be just so. And when things don't go the way I want them to, I get upset. So over the years, I've developed a good system that is very safe for me, and I love to share it with others. For constructing fringes, we're just going to take guides at the beginning and the exit points. So here at the parting, our first guide is going to come from right there. Where the fringe ends at the corner of the eye, we'll take our second guide there. I used to get so tore up when I was first learning to cut hair about, when I would take my fringe, how am I supposed to hold my fingers right there? And am I going to keep it low? Am I going to elevate it up? And a lot of the problems that I was having would come from the fact that I was working in the way that I always saw others working without actually thinking about it and looking at the head form. Jennifer has a question. What do you recommend with cowlicks? Well, with idiosyncratic behavior of the hair, or meaning behavior that is specific to that person and their hair, specifically cowlicks in this case, I'm going to ask them what they do about it. And if they tell me I don't do anything about it, then we may decide to move in a slightly different direction. Andrew talked earlier about realistic expectations. If someone brings you a picture of a fringe that's styled and dressed out and looks absolutely perfect, but they have textured hair with a cowlick, and under questioning, they say, no, I probably won't get up and burn that root down with my blow dryer and use my flat iron to control that. So if they say, no, I won't, then we don't move in that direction. If they're open to the behavior of their natural cowlick and we can cut something that helps that look pretty good, that's generally what I'm going to try to do. Now, if I get a disciplinarian who's like, yeah, I will spec that stuff out every single day, and they can do it exactly like I do, we'll give them anything they want. There is no categorical rule, guys. We keep saying that. It is basically about who are you working with, what do they got, what are they willing to do? When you can bring that trifecta of questions together, you'll get your answer, and the path for technique always reveals itself. Consultation, like Sammy says, builds your wealth. So here we are on the heavier side of the fringe, on this side of the parting. We're going to take our first guide, just kind of blouse it up here. Where do you think, when she wears it, sweeping across her face, where do you think that first length should go? So we'll dress it over here, give it a little bit of volume for realness, and let's just say we're going to take it right there. So there's our shortest piece on this side of the fringe. On the other side, let's just say we want it to roll out to the length. So we'll chop just a little bit of crispy end right there so we can see where we're going to land. And now we have two guides. This answers a lot of questions for us, because if we were going to construct this fringe in such a way, we're looking for something. I see that question. Hang on one second. If we're looking for a way to set this up to where it moves across, we have so many questions about over direction, finger angle. What are the movements that we have to use to get to that desirable shape? So we're going to look at that in just a second. As soon as I look at Marilyn's question, how far back do you determine where the fringe will live? Do you just cross the diagonal sections? Awesome. Thank you for that question, Marilyn. So if you look up here on the diagram, if that was our center line right there, then we're going to take those from the corner of the eye, exactly right, until they sort of connect together. What I've done right here with Lydia today, is that we have worked with her natural parting, and then we took a parting from the corner of the eye that takes us right there, and then one that takes us right there. What this shows us is that when we section up from the corner of the eye, it actually lands a little bit shy from the high point of the head. So we're going to get that little bit of fringe area. It isolates it very sweetly for us that lives right here. So back to this. Here's our first guide right here. You get over there. This is the guide, and then here is our guide for length. And if just like if we were cutting on the back of someone's head, we would set a perimeter first. We always treat fringe like it's some kind of scary animal that must be handled with special gloves or something, but it's just hair living in a place. It's subject to the same movements of hair cutting, elevation, over direction, finger angle, finger position. All the things we do with hair everywhere, we can do right here. I saw that question and then it went away. If you want to bring that back, Andrew, I'll look again. So now we have the first guide, the second guide.
I actually was just posting that Lydia is our mannequin head that we designed with pivot point. And for now, we usually do sell it on our website, but for now you can purchase through pivot point since they have that great discount going.
Awesome. Lydia is kind of special because we're an education company, but we do finishing, we do cutting, we do color, we do a lot of things. So we wanted to have a mannequin that would allow us to play in pretty much any direction that we wanted to. Pivot point steps up, big swing and a home run, and gives us Lydia, who has multi-dimensional hair. Like when you move it through the light, you may not see that there, but you get really nice reflex off that. Level 5 and level 7 hair, I believe. And then also the density is awesome. And then the length is amazing too, whatever you want to do. All right, so back to the fringe. Questions about cutting the fringe. 9 times out of 10, before someone showed me better, and maybe this is you, you don't have to say anything if it is, we're cutting fringe down here somewhere. Very seldom do we get up into this range to cut fringe. And the question we ask is why not? So if we're always dealing with the issue, and here's one I hear all the time, no matter what I do, it just hangs really heavy in her face. I can't ever seem to get the texture that I want. It just always is falling right back in her face. A lot of times that's going to be because it's just too heavy. So think about hair cutting in the back of the head. If we cut something in 0 degree, is it going to be heavy or is it going to be light and airy? Well, we know it's going to be heavy because it doesn't have any elevation. So here in the front of the hair, it's exactly the same. If we're cutting down here somewhere, then we're going to be getting heavier results. Let's have a look. We'll just take off to this length and blend up to our guide. So that was cut in low elevation, but we just cut a little bit of a perimeter there for ourselves. With the rest, we're going to drop it back down into place and decide what we want to do about it. If we want something that's nice and heavy, we've already spelled it out. Don't elevate too much. Leave it nice and low, and it's going to give you a very weighty result. Now, if that's not what you want, then we need to get the hair up a little bit. And so think about taking your perimeter guide, and I'm going to get behind her so I can take it to that place that we all know and love, which is 90 degrees up vertically. And there you can see a guide waiting for me. That's the hair that we just cut from the perimeter. So that gives us permission to take all of that off. Let's look at it if we didn't do that. Here we are kicking it back regular style. I'm down very low elevation. I'm going to take this length off. I'm point cutting for texture, but guess what? If you're not elevating very much, it's not going to do that much for you except break up the ends. So cutting low like that, that definitely got pretty heavy. So let's see what happens if we get back to that position we were just talking about. What up, bud?
Hey, so there's lots of questions about suitability, talking about like fringe with wider foreheads, thinner foreheads, things like that. Is that something you're going to cover for us about suitability?
Yeah, let's get into that towards the end if we can. What I want to try and do with you guys right now is to discuss mechanics that are principally based, whether we get into something that is too wide or too narrow. Even when we get into rules about suitability, and I hurt people's feelings when I say this, but that's creative choice. There is no real rule about how something is supposed to be put on somebody's face. If you get someone who has a wide face who says, I feel like I have a wide face, then, then we would avoid doing something to exacerbate that effect. But I've had people come in that have asked for stuff that I do not think looks good on them. But at the end of the day, it's just like, oh God, Andrew, what was the guy's name? Nick with Matrix. Nicholas French. Oh. Nicholas French said this thing, it just rocked my world, and I was sitting right next to Andrew when it happened. He's like, what is in style is what your guest will allow you to do. And I remember like my floor just fell out of underneath me, and I was like, oh my God, I've been an idiot. I've been imposing my own value system on somebody else. So suitability is what it does, guys. There are guidelines that we can follow, and we'll get into it a little bit. I can give you the quick version right now. Endeavor to create an oval shape. So if someone's too narrow, you widen them. If someone's too wide, you elongate them. What you're trying to do is stretch them back somehow to get that silhouette into the so-called most desirable shape of oval. But guess what? Everybody's beautiful, man. So here we go. Back to this.
On another note, does there happen to be new background noise or anything in your office? We're having like your audio's kind of going in and out, in and out, in and out.
Uh-oh.
That's usually because it's trying to stop noise.
Hold on, buddy. I'm moving the microphone. Is that better?
Possibly.
The fan on my laptop's running. That might have been it.
Oh, probably. Okay.
Yeah, I just moved it a little bit. Does that seem to help?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Carry on.
All right, guys. So what we did was we created I lost my train of thought. We created a guide here at the perimeter of the fringe, and we decided that no elevation just wasn't enough. So we're going to take it straight up. And just notice, we'll see our guide there from the perimeter roll out. We have all of this on top of it. And we mentioned this briefly in the last segment, and Andrew talked about it too, is entry angle of the shear. So in this case, I want the lines to move away from her going this way towards the outer side of her cheek. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line that moves in that direction. So just like Andrew was showing us, creating that texture on the ends, the way that the lines kick is going to affect the way the hair wants to push around when it's back in natural fall. So now a nice bit of layering, and you can see now that the bottom of that is a little bit airier, and that it opens up just a little bit more because when we elevated and cut, we created layers on the top of that to soften up the bottom. You know, and this was something Andrew touched on in his segment too, but I wanted to drop it again. Lines within lines and texturizing within your subsection. You know, so if you've done this, if the guest said, I want a nice long flowing fringe, but I don't want it to fall in my face, we layer it, it still falls in her face. Then we just might need to give it a little more, maybe not giving it all the way, however. So what I mean to say is this. Here was our cutting position. Here was the line that we created. We were careful to watch the entry angle of our shear, so it created short to long kicking that way, that it would flow back towards the back of her head. So now, if we feel like it's still just not enough, we can take a blending shear and work it inside. Whoops, this way. So if it was heaviest over the eye, that's going to be coming from this area in the middle of the head. For instance, right over here, the outer side of the fringe, as you can see, we dropped that there. It's probably not giving her that much trouble because it's over against the edge of the eye. So we're going to get in there and make an adjustment. This hair, we didn't need to bother so much. This hair on this side is the culprit, so we can take ourselves in there with a blending shear, but change the angle, excuse me. Snag the tooth there. Now change the angle a little bit. Pop one line in there, and then release. What that does is, in a very subtle way, it takes just a little bit of the weight out. And I like the Invisablend shear for this because it just doesn't leave a mark. I'm not sure if Andrew explained that or not, but this blade, the still blade, is actually not sharpened. It's just flat steel, polished steel, and the teeth, as you can see, are very simple. They don't have all the complicated little teeth on them. So when these two come together, sharp meeting dull, it puts just a little bit of stretch on the end, almost like a razor. So it gives us that very soft touch. I nicknamed my Invisablend the magic eraser because anytime that I want to, I can work in and debulk something, and I know that I'm not going to leave a line. So there's one side of our fringe, nice long flowing fringe. On the other side, I think we can all agree that the shorter side is just as important, but it's not the money piece. How else could you do that?
I think she's referring to, like, if you don't have the Invisablend, how would you approach that?
Awesome. Well, there was something I saw you do a little bit ago, and I was like, why didn't I think of that before? Really miss you, man. We need to get together and jam on some stuff. It's been too long. So it was something like this. If I didn't have the blending shear, then I could get in there and selectively remove hair. So if I wanted the angle, this is the angle that we cut. If I want that angle to oppose it a little bit more, get a little shorter here towards the trouble spot, but then bail out as we reach the length, then just like you had shown us, I could start a little shorter, but get a little longer as I move toward the extremity and notch out a little bit of hair that way. You know, more selectively texturizing rather than just planting a blending shear in there. A razor would work there really good too. Pick that up and just take the toe of the blade and notch it through like that. Take out some of that heaviness. Here we are on the other side. Now, there isn't as much hair to deal with, but guess what? There's still a little perimeter that we can take. Hey, where's my clip? I keep trying to grab my tie bar and use it as a clip. So we have this little perimeter here, and it's really kind of like beginning and the end, right? So we can make one match and then roll out to the length if we want to. And then these are the two pieces that will connect on this side. Once again, consistency in the movement. So I'm elevating up 90 degrees. There go my guides. And this is all that needs to be cut. And then that gives us, from the major part of the fringe right there, a nice long face framer, or a nice long fringe, I should say. What questions do you guys have? Andrew will let me know. So let's join this up to a face framing layer if you want to. Now, first of all, think about face framer. I've been saying that too many times. Face framing layers. Think of them and the fringe as being mutually exclusive. Here's a question. How do you gently have a convo with a guest with very thin hair in the fringe who wants a heavy bang? Something that someone told me once that I took to heart is always find a way to say yes. Now, yes may come with some qualifiers. So if someone doesn't have the density, what I've discovered in my world, and that's all I can share with you, it's my opinion, take it for what it's worth, but when I show a guest anatomically where fringe lives on their head, let's just say that this lady right here just doesn't have the density. And if I section this off and show her where the fringe lives, if it's not very much hair and she can see with a certainty that she doesn't have the density for it, a lot of times that just eliminates the discussion. Politely though, give people the truth. I believe that you should just give it to people straight up. If you have rapport with them, they'll know that you don't mean anything bad by it. But I would say, this is what you've got. This is what I think I can do. These are some things we might have to do when we cut your fringe to make it behave that way. It'll involve this much styling every single day to make it happen. Are you willing to do that? You know, and if she says yes, you're good to go. If she says no, it's on her. You move in a different direction, something else that can make her happy. What's up, brother?
I just wanted to kind of tag on to that because I think you can use that exact same system with all of your difficult consultation needs. Basically, what our responsibility is as the professional is to put all the choices in front of them, but then hand it back to them. And we might make suggestions, but really the best thing that you can ever do is exactly what Jesse just explained. Give them the reality. Hey, okay, here's the structure. Here's how much hair will come down. So you can see if we use that basic structure for fringe, this is about how thick we have to play with. Are you comfortable with that? So that way it just, like you said, it puts that decision-making process back in the hands of the client, which is really where it should be. We can, and of course, a lot of times the response is going to be, well, what do you think? Then we as a professional can say, you know, to me, I don't know that we have enough density to give you a great full fringe. Here's another suggestion. Here's another option. So thought that was well explained, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I took that inspiration from the original lesson is given to me was about dismissing a guest for being late. And, you know, when I first got started, if somebody was a certain amount of minutes late, it was hasta la vista until next time, or you can get on the reschedule. And it was just, you hit the 15-minute mark, you're out of here. And then my mentor helped me understand that, you know, they've reduced the amount of time they have. They're going to make a choice about what's going to happen with the rest of it, you know. And so once again, we have that polite conversation. The conversation can always be polite, friends, and you can always find a way to say yes with certain constraints. How deep can you go on a fringe party? Well, once again, that I don't want to make an absolute rule for anybody. I have some college-age girls who are bringing that stuff from way where it doesn't belong, and I do not understand how they wear it, but they're bringing it from a place that, to me, seems ludicrous. But what the lesson here is that there's really not a rule. How deep can you take it? How deep do you want to go? Do you ever use a rectangular fringe section? If I'm doing something creative, I can remember times when I've done that in the past. Generally, though, I'm 45 years old. Most of my clients are my age, within 10 years, one way or the other. And most of them kind of want pretty hair that plays by everyday rules. So most of what I do behind the chair is based on anatomy and flow. When I've done stuff for like Elevate or things where I want to get kind of showy offy and get a picture made of it afterwards, then we have a lot of fun. But this particular method, using the corners of the eye, just like we use the corners in the back, here's a horizontal transition where the head stops being the side and is becoming the front. There's gonna be a place on the head that lets you know where that's happening. Let me cut you guys some face framing layers. Keep those questions coming. I love it. So here's a rule that I made up for myself, and I haven't found a problem with it yet. I'm going to share it with you. Take it for what it's worth. Is that fringe and face framing, they're mutually exclusive. They don't necessarily have to blend to look good together. If you can make one look good on the face, which we decided we were happy with that, and you can make another one look good on the face, then they should look good together. And that's the idea we're going to take right now. So I'm just going to gently put the fringe away that we just cut, and we're going to start right here with the face framing layer. Cool stuff about anatomy, it just seems so coincidental sometimes how things just want to work out. So the corner of the eye showed us where to go vertically to the parting to get this part of the fringe. The corner of the eye, where we enter the hairline right here, also marks a place where the vertical transition is taking place, or the so-called parietal ridge. So right at that point, critical. Everything above this point, the vertical transition, is going to be fringe. What's below this point is face framing layers. It's just where they live and how they behave. So just like we did before, right there at the top of this section, where the face framing layer is going to begin, we're going to take a guide. Then we're going to pull one from the very bottom, where the length is, and we decide how we want to join these up. So if we want it to roll out to the length, then we just decide where on the face would we love for this first face framing layer to land. And once again, you pick it. It's up to you and to her. Fun trick for the salon. If you want a hot tip, give her the handheld mirror, bring that thing right up to her face, and let her make the decision with you. Dress the hair out, get your guide, put it on the face. Where do you think that should go? Does that look good to you? You'd be amazed at how people love to feel like they're helping you with the decision. It's like when my dad used to sit me on his lap and let me hold the steering wheel. Totally thought I was driving the car. I wasn't driving the car. He was driving the car. You're driving the car, and your guest is riding with you. Take them through an experience and give them what they need. Let them feel like they're part of the process, and their loyalty will go up. Guide and guide. Here's the length. Here's the guide that we just set. I'm going to turn sideways a little bit so I can get to this for you guys. Whoa, where's that knob? Okay. So our guide at the top is going to show us where the length begins. Here's where we roll out. We're going to use movements of hair cutting now just to make this easy. Remember what we talked about. If we work in low elevation, it's not going to get any layers. It's going to be heavy. So we can set those lines right there if we want, and we know that they're going to be very firm. If we want that to sit up with a little bit more softness, then we already know the movement's elevation. So what I'm going to do here is we took a small diagonal back parting right inside the hairline, just enough to set this guide. And I'm going to over direct forward to about the corner of the eye, and then I'm going to elevate to the horizontal line of 90 degrees. There's my first guide right there, and I'm going to roll out to the length. And I'm just going to roll this over and point cut from the interior as I move down the line. Just saw the length drop out, so I know I'm good. So we got a lot of different movements coming together to create one thing. Elevation will let us know that we're going to get a little more softness on the ends because it's been lifted up and not cut in 0 degree or no elevation. Over direction is bringing the hair forward from where it actually lives which is going to make sure that we're going to preserve the length and the weight towards the back of the head in case you were worried about your face framer becoming too dominant and getting a mullet in the back. So this makes sure the length bails out before we hit the ear. So this is our guide now. All you have to decide at this point is, do I want to keep that? Is that enough for her? Let her decide. So if you bring her back around, show her what you've done, and she's like, well, I'd like a little bit more. Then we just take her right back and we rinse and repeat the same movements. So we were just inside the hairline there. We're gonna take a little bit more, following the same line, and add to that. Following the same movements. So you have a guide set already. Elevate up to the horizontal line of 90 degrees. I'm going to lower her just a little. I cannot get up that high. Over directed to the corner of the eye, not flat against the face, but just about to that corner. And then I'm looking for my previously cut hair as a guide. Too much hair to work with at once? Let some out. There's my guides. I can make my cuts. Pick that up and go for the bottom. I want to try Sammy's comb trick thing. I was practicing it yesterday. Definitely going to get some couch time in front of the TV with my comb and shear later. See if I can make that happen. It just looks so cool when he does that. Do you change angle or elevation when the hair is down to their waist? So if their hair is down to their waist, nothing about what's going on down there is going to affect what's happening right here. So I don't know that I would need to necessarily change the angle or the elevation relative to the length of the hair. But what I would do is maybe isolate exactly where the face framing is going to live. And then it just might have to stop. You know, it just might not be able to blend to the length. So you might say you want a few danglers in front of the ear right there, and then we can peel something off selectively and frame her out. Because all of that, if you frame that to the bottom, I mean, generally you just won't have anything left by the time you get to the ear. So now we're going to do this on the other side. Let me flip her around a little bit. Same movements. So that's where my fringe was. We stick it up here and get rid of it. We have a guide here at the top of the vertical transition, or that so-called parietal ridge. And you don't even have to really think about blending them to the same spot on the face. Now, I've got some of those Lucy laser lines where they're going to pick those things down, and I think this might be a quarter inch longer. They're going to let you know, but just tell them that I'm not looking for symmetry here. I'm looking for a term that Sammy gave me, visual balance. Is that if one side of the face looks good and the other side of the face looks good, then they look good together. We're not trying to make everything matchy-matchy. So I'm going to take my first guide. Well, that's where I just cut. There we go. This is the side we're on now. First guide here, and you just pick that spot where you think it looks good. You're probably going to want to try and get it kind of close to where you were, but don't feel like you have to like tug test it and put them in exactly the right place. Thankfully, today's trends right now are just very loose and very forgiving. So enjoy it while it lasts, because it won't be that way forever. So now taking that guide, elevating to the horizontal 90, there's my guide, and I'm wanting to kind of feed out to the length. So I'm going to get on top of that. What scissor am I using? This is my personal favorite out of all of our shears, the 7-inch dry cutting shear Swivel. I call it the destroyer in my pouch because whatever I have to do, if it's me against the hair and only one of us can survive, this is the shear that I go after it with. I like a long blade. That's just my personal preference. I feel like you know, short scissors are great because really, if you're cutting, you're probably only using this much of the blade most of the time. So a smaller shear would definitely work. But when I first started doing hair and buying scissors for myself, I really wanted to have a shear that I felt like could do everything that I needed it to do. And this shear was it for me. I mean, it was the beginning of my love affair with our equipment. One of the reasons I felt great about coming to work for Sammy. Yes, I think he's Sammy, but I knew I'd be repping for good gear like this.
Yeah. Hey, and people are kind of asking about how you're using that shear with your hand position. How you're kind of flipping it around. Can you show them that technique, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is a swivel. I don't have to do all of this stuff that I'm doing. I've just gotten used to it now. Please allow me to demonstrate on 2 shears just to give you the visual. So what I'm accomplishing here is this. If I have a fixed ring, meaning this doesn't swivel, and I want to put myself into a position that allows me to kind of slither or slide or pinch and talk or whatever you want to call it down through the hair without having to elevate my shoulder up so much, then this was just our shears. Really lend themselves to interesting grips because we just put tangs all over the dang place, and there's so many ways to work your hand into the shear. So here's what's happening. I'm holding the shear like normal, and then I'm going to take my thumb out and just hold it like I'm pointing up with it. It's in line with my fingers. And notice that the ring has come out to almost the last digit of that knuckle on my ring finger. And what that's going to do is going to allow me to have the ability to roll this thing up into my hand. You can see that? So with the rest of the fingers in play, you see this. And your hand just finds a way that it wants to be in there. Thumb reinserts, and then I can work the shear this way. It feels a little backwards at first because it's like you leftied yourself. We designed the shear to be held this way, but we're turning it around so it's visible to us from the opposite side. It feels a little goofy at first, but if you've been doing this a long time and your shoulders hurt like I do, then you want to find a way to keep this down. If you get crazy enough to take it as far as I do and start naming your techniques based on comic books, let me know. I'd love to have that discussion with you. So, but with the swivel, it's very easy. Keep your thumb in there the whole time. Swivel sound. And it just works a lot easier. I've just gotten used to the swivel. When compared to our standard non-swivel 7, the ring sits just a little bit higher up. And so this is a nerd thing, but I feel like it gives me just a little tiny bit more ergonomic throw to the thumb. Sorry, Andrew. Had to say it. All right. Last section right here on this face framer. Elevating up to the 90 just to keep it soft. Hey, if it wasn't soft enough, guess what you could do? Take it even higher. It's going to let more of your length bail out, and it's going to give you a little more softness in the final fall. Over directing to the corner of the eye. If you had that someone we were asking about earlier with the waist length hair, then yeah, I might want to create some serious over direction. Close your eyes, man. Here it comes. Take it around the face. And believe it or not, it's just exaggerating the over direction, which would allow that to feed back into extremely long hair. Here we go. So working this way. I wanted to deep point cut from the interior. If you don't like that grip, here's another way you can get to it. Let me just spin her around a little bit so you can see. It would be like this. You would have to come from above, hold the hair, shoulders low, and then you would come from above the hair and begin to work your way through like that. Totally fine. I don't know why. I think I was watching Sam doing his comb flip thing, and I was like, I want to have a cool thing. And I remember seeing a long time ago someone holding their shear like that, so it just made sense to bring it back. All right, so watch this. We cut our face framers right here. We're going to drop the rest back in, and we'll notice that it fits together okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be blended all the way down. One can float on top of the other. Let me raise her up. Cool. All right, we're coming down to time here just a little bit. Now, this method you could use to construct just about any fringe. It's just about isolating the parting, isolating the anatomical fringe at the corners of the eye, and then setting guides before you start. Let's just look at one more real quick in the minutes that we have left. Let's get rid of her for a moment. Hang on to those clips. All right, I brought one that we kind of prepped here for something a little bit heavier, just to demonstrate that we're using the same ideas. Not sure where I put the shears. Oh, here they go. All right.
Jesse, what are you going to cut?
We're going to just look at something a little bit heavier, variations of the theme. What's great about this, guys, is that we're going to use the exact same method to get all the results. So if we don't cut all of the fringes that you were imagining today, that's okay. Just know that the ideas that we're talking about here is something that you could do no problem. With
Yeah, we
any
got
fringe.
requests for a straight across fringe and a short fringe, so I'm sure you're
All right,
probably
straight across fringe, short fringe. Here it comes. I'm going to bang them out for you. I talked it up enough, you guys, so I'm just going to work for a second, and hopefully you guys can add something to it. So here's our straight across fringe. Remember that the head is a round shape. This is what the front of it's going to look like. A lot of times the mistakes we make with our fringes is that we're cutting them flat to the center of the forehead. I mean to say it would be something like this, you know, cutting it flat to the forehead rather than one side, and here's the middle. It's hard to do on yourself in the camera. It's like doing it in the mirror. All right, so we're going to part her down the middle. And then we're going to set a first guide here in the middle. Oops, that belongs over here. And then we're going to take a guide at the edge. Same idea. We'll put the other side away for now. So we're just on the one side. If we wanted it to be nice and heavy, then we're going to set ourselves a guide. Where is that going to go first? And we'll just take it right here at the bridge of the nose. A little bit longer maybe than reality, but the mannequin hair, as you can already see, you know, it wants to spring off the head a little bit sometimes. All right, we'll pick a place to end right there at the corner of the eye. We'll do the same thing on the other side. There's our guide in the middle. And then we're going to look for that guide over here at the corner of the eye to tell us where to end it. So just like before, there's our guide in the middle. We'll add a little more to it. One on the side. And I'll keep running out of clips. Give me one of these back. It's going to play. There we go. So we'll set our guide in the same place. And then we'll set this other guide in the same place as well on this side. So this marks at the corners of the eye for us. And now we'll drop this section in. And we'll make our cut. Now, just like if you were cutting the back of somebody's head, you're not going to take this all in one fell swoop unless you're pretty confident that you can pull it off. We're going to let it down in layers. And we're going to use our 6-inch reversible blender to make this cut. I'm going to try and get in here where you can see. Here's our guides. I'm going to work the spine of the comb underneath. So all the elevation I'm going to get on this is just the spine of the comb, which is not quite 1/4 of an inch. I measured it one time. And then I'm going to make that cut. Close your eyes, man. Just like we talked about earlier, the blending shear, using it for heavy lines, is going to give you a slight bit of texture right there at the bottom. That's going to allow that just to mush together a little bit better. Oh, let's find where that went. There we go. And that's the rest of this one. Same thing like we did before. We're going to cut a perimeter, put the rest away for a moment. Just connecting these guides. Here's the first one. And here's the second one. Lay it right on the skin. Blade goes against the skin. Teeth go into the blade. She just want to close her eyes for this one. Let me turn her to me. Yeah, got a little fussy there in the middle. But that'll give you a nice heavy line, cutting ourselves a perimeter across the front. Truly, if you want it to stay straight across the front, you've got to cut it like 1 and 1. From the top, it'll look like it even gets like a little peak there in the middle. But when you've blown it straight and it drapes over the round object, it'll look great. Last section right here. Boom. We already have a guide. We know where to cut. Set the comb in, wide teeth for very little tension. Spine against the skin. Close your eyes, man. It's the other half of that. Same thing over here on this side. Rinse and repeat. Just setting guides to do it. That was really the point I want to get. I could cut you 10 more fringes and it would all be the same thing. Just remember, set a guide where it begins, set a guide where it ends, and then just connect the two guides, especially in the fringe. A lot of the elements of movement like finger angle and how much over direction should I use, those things get answered just by connecting the dots. So that gives us a little bit something nice and heavy, but then you'll see that it moves across the head very nicely. Principles, 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 guys. How many ways can we apply them? We could go on for days. 45 minutes really flies by. I'm sorry to have to cut this short, but we're out of time. We're going to have a million more videos heading your way soon. Instagram TV. There's 1,000 videos on our YouTube already. Oh, wait, let me do it. No, I told you to give me 5 more minutes. Do the chopper. Okay. I'm never going to get tired of that.
Nope. It's always good. Hey, we have a winner.
Oh, yeah. I want to know who won the sweet tripod.
Let me pull it up here.
And all of you that win this stuff, especially the Cosmetologists of Chicago VIP packages, I will be looking for each and every one of you at the next show. So if you won something from us, please come to our booth next year at Chicago and show us that you won. I'll give you something. Don't tell Andrew.
This actually worked out perfect because she's from Johnsburg, Illinois, which hopefully that's close to Chicago. And it's Kathy Moberg. Kathy Moberg, congratulations.
You have truly won something amazing. My pivot point tripod is one of my top 5 desert island sort of stuff next to Lydia.
Oh, yeah.
You can beat off cannibals and do hair with this thing. It would be the best.
Pivot point was even offering to like send us some fresh ones and stuff. I was like, no. Like mine has road scars and stickers and like, I don't want a new one.
The only thing I've replaced on this one is the head. In 10 years, guys, I put some stickers over the dings I put on it on the road, but this thing is not complaining yet. Don't get me started on how awesome Pivot Point is. I'll pull out the tattoo.
Yeah, Jesse's got it tattooed on the back of his neck. Show him.
I do, mannequin style.
Show him.
Thank you guys so much for being with us today. This was my last segment of the day, but I will see all of you again at the end of the day when the team comes together to say goodbye. So thank you so much for having me in your homes. Thank you for putting up with me. I hope I was able to give you something that you can use behind the chair. Thanks again.
For sure. Thanks, Jesse. And thank you guys. We're going to wrap up this segment with a little message from our friend Sherry Doss at Redken.
Hi everyone, my name is Sherry Doss and I am Vice President of Education for Redken Worldwide, and I'm coming to you from my very colorful home, which is normally how I like my hair color. So one day I can't wait for one of you to get your hands on my hair. But in the meantime, I just wanted to thank you for being a part of this amazing event and a part of all of the education that Redken is bringing every day through these very unusual times. We know that it's tough. It's tough for all of us in different ways, and yet we know that we are stronger together. Hairstylists banding together for hairstylists, and together we can get through this. We can see the other side, and we know that we're going to come out stronger and more powerful and serving our clients like never before. So thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for being here at this event, and thank you for spending your time with us. And please never, never forget that Redken loves you.